HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate. Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth, where we're exploring all sorts of business topics. Experts from around the world join me, your host, Diane Helbig, for a conversation where they share their expertise with all of you. Take what you need when you need it. Featured on Inc.com, Forbes, and MSNBC's Your Business, this podcast is recognized as one of the best podcasts for small business, sales, leadership, social media, and more. When it comes to business, Accelerate Your Business Growth has got it covered. And now on with the show. Today, I have the pleasure of having two guests. They are Tonya Eberhart and Michael Carr. They are two international best-selling authors, hosts of the Be Bold Branding podcast, and partners in Brand Face. They have helped thousands of coaches, creators, and experts build profitable personal brands to change how they're seen, and charge what they're worth, something we should all be doing. So join us as we dive into their journey and learn from their expertise in profitable personal branding. Thanks so much for joining me today, you guys.
Oh, thank you for having us, Diane.
Yes, we're happy to be here.
I am thrilled to have you here. This is a big topic, and I think especially small business owners really struggle with this whole branding, identity, marketing, whole concept because they don't understand it. They don't know how to quantify it. It sort of gives them a headache, so they avoid it.
Yeah, we've heard that.
I'll bet you hear it a lot.
We actually do hear it a lot. Yeah, it's a big mystery. I think, one of the biggest mysteries is kind of like, what's the difference between marketing and branding? Because those terms, unfortunately, are used interchangeably quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that is so true. And I would love it if you would explain the difference.
I would love to. Okay, so we've pretty much really simplified what we see as the difference between the two. So marketing is really just using different marketing vehicles or channels to get a message and image out to your ideal customers. It can be a radio commercial. It can be a YouTube ad. It can be a billboard on the side of the road. It could be an email that you send to somebody, just some sort of channel to get a message out there. Your brand, however, is the message and image that goes into that marketing vehicle. So if we were driving down the road and we see a billboard, if there's nothing on it, it's still a marketing vehicle. It's just not marketing anything, right? But your brand is what you put into that. It's all the imagery, all the messaging, everything that goes into getting that message across to who you want to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me... I'm listening to that and I'm thinking to myself, it's like how people feel when they experience your marketing.
That's very true. And they feel that way because of what they're hearing, seeing, or perceiving. right?
Yeah.
It evokes that feeling. So I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because there's a big difference there too. So a lot of people say, okay, we can help you build your brand. You hear that everywhere, all over the place out there. And really, when it comes down to it, you'll find out many of those people just are going to help you build your website, or they're going to help you do your social media management or various things like that. They're not actually building the brand. They are promoting the brand by doing those things. You have to actually build the brand first. And that building that brand, we hope to evoke a certain feeling. You know, everybody says a brand is a feeling. A brand evokes a feeling. So that's another delineation I think is really important.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. And so how do you build a brand? I know it's a big question, but what the heck?
That is a big question. We use what we call the 3D formula. It's define, develop, and display.
Okay.
And we can break those down for
Great.
your audience if you'd like. I'd like to add before we actually delve into that I was one of the guilty parties that thought for 20 years of my 31-year career as an entrepreneur that marketing was all I needed, and I needed to spend a lot of money on marketing.
Yeah.
And found out through Tonya 11, almost 12 years ago now, that I needed a brand.
Wow.
If I didn't have a brand, I was just really doing spray and pray marketing. I literally was just throwing, like so many people do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me try this new thing. Oh, let me try this new thing.
And let me guess at what goes into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And guess what goes into it, and hope that, it lands on the ears of somebody that actually fits
Right.
a client that I can work with. And so Tony taught me, look, it's all backwards. You got to look at it this other way. And so the first one is define. Obviously, we've got to define what it is that sets you apart. And we do a deep dive with this. We look at 77 different criteria when you work with brand face, because we really get into your personality, who you are, why you do what you do, those kind of things. Because we know that that a brand has to answer 5 very important questions to be able to really be effective in the marketplace.
Yep. And I'll shout those questions out for you. So if you guys are listening out there, grab a pen and write these down, because unless you have the clear cut, very defined answers to these questions, you do not have a well-defined brand. I know that's a little tough love for you today, but those 5 questions, it is love. It is. So those 5 questions are: 1, exactly who do you serve? 2, exactly how do you serve them? 3, what qualifies you to serve them? 4, how does it make their life better? And 5, what makes you different from everyone else out there who is also trying to serve that same customer? And if you can answer those with great clarity and actually show it in your brand, we like to say it's not enough to know the answers. You have to show the answers in your brand and put it out there on a consistent basis. Then that is the beginning of building a brand. And as Michael said, in that define phase, we look at what does set you apart and who do you serve. So a couple of those questions are going to be answered inside of that. And then we have the development phase.
And this is where we take that knowledge that we've learned in the definition phase, and then we start to build it around. So if you look at like the definition phase as the cover of the book, then the development phase is where we start writing the chapters and the introductions and the preface and that sort of thing. So this is where we're going to build out your messaging. That we've learned a lot about you in the first definition phase. So now we're going to be building out that messaging, building out your spotlight sheet, which is your brand at a glance. We're going to be talking about imagery that is going to back up the messaging, because that's very important. Everybody sort of knows, I need to get a headshot. I need to get some photo shoot. I need to get all the, that's true. We know that a picture's worth 1,000 words. We have to make sure that they're the right 1,000 words to the right picture. And this is a place where people, maybe surprisingly or unsurprisingly, they go wrong with this. And because you really want to showcase in those pictures and imagery and background imagery and coloring and that sort of thing, exactly those feelings that you're evoking from that definition phase.
Yeah, so true. And then the third thing is, once we get your brand defined, who do you serve, what sets you apart, and developed the messaging and the imagery that actually portrays that, then we work on display. And now we want to make sure that the new brand is displayed correctly and consistently across all of your everyday marketing platforms. So looking at your website, your social channels, your business card, your email signature, a lot of different things like that, making sure that anywhere somebody could run across you, they're going to see that same look, feel, and story. And that's pretty much it. I mean, once you get through with that, then you have literally everything you need at your fingertips, from your logo files to photos of you to background imagery to all of the messaging that articulates what sets you apart and your calls to action. And all of those things are sitting there ready to put into place. So it's kind of like plug and play. Then you have what you need to put into your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. See, folks, this is why I love doing this podcast, because I learned so much right along with you. This is tremendous information. And I love this idea of consistency, because I think that's also something people struggle with. They think, if I just put it out there once, or if I just, every 6 months or whatever it is, that somehow people are going to find me and know this is who I really am.
Yeah, that's super guesswork, and it's different. Like when you approach your business with a brand first mentality like that, you actually begin to talk to the people that you want to showcase your brand to, become paying clients to you, and then you can start to build that ecosystem that every business needs to have for lead gen. Lead generation, it doesn't matter what business you're in, lead generation is never a one path, one road to success. It's especially in the world that we live in now. Like, you need to have your lead generation coming from dozens of places. But if you're not consistent with your brand, you've got no way to track an ROI, like the return on your marketing investment. No way to do that. Once you define a brand, though, and now your messaging is the same, then you've got a constant. So you can say, I spent this money over here, it didn't work. I spent this money over here and it worked incredible. I need to quit spending money here and start spending money here.
Right.
And that's when your pie graph grows, starts to show up, and like you begin to say, oh, I got 15% of my clients from my social media. I got 25% of my clients from the radio commercials. You get the point. But if you don't have that consistent message and that brand dialed in, how do you know what worked? The billboard worked, but this billboard had this picture, and that billboard had that picture, and that billboard had that picture. We don't know which picture worked. Right. We don't know which message worked, right? We just know a billboard worked. But if you align all of those things up and you're using that same messaging, now okay, billboards overall worked, right? Because it's the same message on every one of them.
Right.
So true.
So one of the things I keep thinking of is that, and it goes back to your 5 questions, is I think a lot of people, they may know exactly who they work for, but they want to market to everybody. Mm-hmm. They are, it's like a scarcity mindset. They're afraid to really zero in and say, nope, it's not everybody with skin. It's these people.
So true.
Yeah, good point.
It is, the fear of focus is probably the one thing that tanks most businesses, because you can't serve everybody. What we like to say is, if you try to help everyone, you'll just help yourself right out of business.
I love that.
Well, and in doing so, I mean,
we know this because we've almost done it like 5 times ourselves.
Yeah. Before 2012, I did it a few times. Yeah. So I know what that's like, but yeah, that really is, it's critical to know exactly who you best serve. I was actually just on the phone a little while ago with a health and wellness coach who's going to be coming into our program, and he knows, he even said to me, Tonya, there's millions of health and wellness coaches out there. They're just everywhere. And he said, but if I don't differentiate myself in this space, I'm going to lose ground, because I'm just going to market like everybody else. I'm going to be seen as everybody else. And I'm going to be a tiny little piece of a big giant pie.
Yeah.
And so he's right about that. And every industry is pretty much like that. Industries are just, inundated with all of these people, but so few of them really differentiate themselves, and the ones that do walk away with most of the business.
That's so true.
Because then, if you imagine this, Diane, when somebody sees your brand out there, and your brand's number one job, by the way, is to precede you. It is to let people know who you are and what you stand for before you ever even meet in person or get on the phone or a Zoom call together. So that's the purpose. And what we've got to do is make sure that we are positioning ourselves properly in doing so that we don't have to work so hard in the engagement phase with somebody. We don't even know how many opportunities we're missing on the front end because people don't look at us and say, wow, that's exactly who I need to be working with. So when we put our brand out there and it says brand face, profitable personal brands, and then it says change how you're seen and charge what you're worth, I can promise you the person that feels like, gosh, I need to differentiate myself. I need to be profitable in what I'm doing. I work too hard not to be profitable. And I know I haven't been charging enough for my services. That person is going to call us every single time because we've tapped into what they're feeling and who they are. Right. And we've tapped into the fact that they know they're worth more, but they just don't know how to position themselves to be worth more.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that's what we help all of our clients do, is that positioning part, and differentiation is the most critical.
It's very big. And I've been in the brand face program now. I hired Tonya. There wasn't even a brand face program when I hired Tonya to do my marketing. And she sold me marketing and then taught me branding, what I needed to do.
It was a bait and switch.
It was a bait and switch. And it was and I
nice
paid
job.
more. Yeah, I paid more than anybody for the program. So
he does have that. You do, absolutely.
I hold that honor.
Now, hang on, because this is the first time ever, we've talked about this before, but he still today, 12 years later, still holds the record for paying them more than any other client we have ever had since.
Ever.
He's pretty proud of himself on that one.
I really am, because it's worth every dime of what she taught me. And then she, I found out she was writing this book, and then she asked me to write the second book. I'm in the real estate business, and so she taught me that. And then we went after real estate agents. We've got like agents in 46 states, hundreds and hundreds of agents that we worked with over the years and still do. And we love this thought process, But anyway, I was going down this road with her, and she taught me these things, and so now I'm 12 years, almost 13 years into still being a brand face in the real estate business. And I am still amazed at how much I haven't focused.
Wow.
So even now, and you think like in real estate, you're like, it's easy to go, well, want to sell a house to anybody? Well, of course we'll sell a house to anybody, especially if there's a commission involved, right? But that's not how you build the business. You build the business going after the exact customer that you want. And it's really been on me for the past month that I still haven't focused enough on my ideal customer. I look at my past customers, and I'm like, we can dial this in even more. We can dial this in even more. So I'm really hoping that listener out there is thinking about their business and like, well, okay, what am I too scattered? Have I got too many projects going on? Too many things that are dusty on the shelf I've spent money on and I'm not utilizing? What do I need to be focusing on? And I want to encourage that listener or listeners that you look, keep doing that. Keep boiling that down. That's where the riches come into it. You always need to be thinking, my brand is dialed in now. How can I dial it in more? That focus is everything.
You bring up such a great point, and it makes me think about, I think what people do is they don't realize, you said something, so, would I sell a house to anybody? Sure. There's a difference between who you're trying to create awareness about yourself toward, and people who reach out to you. So anyone can reach out to you and you can have any conversation you want. But when you're trying to develop that awareness, you want to make sure that you are moving toward the people who are your ideal clients, because those are the people who are going to hear that message. Anyone can reach out to you, and there's the potential you'll do business with them. So it's not like you're totally eliminating those people. It's just you have to really be targeted and specific about who you're talking to, or no one hears it.
It's so
Yes,
true.
and that's where your money, like, and you're
Yes.
spending money on that. Yeah, you're spending money on that
time,
marketing.
money, and effort
Right.
toward
Yes.
that. And all of your time, money, and effort needs to go toward that ideal customer, because the rest will come back into what we call fringe. The fringe is somebody looks at your brand and it doesn't really matter if they're like the perfect fit for you. They like what they see.
Yes.
And then when they come to you, you have the option. Do you do business with them? Is it a close enough fit? Or do you refer them to somebody else and maybe get a referral fee and make a better fit for somebody else, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But when it comes to time, money, and effort, be greedy. You've got to be so efficient in how you spend those resources.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to ask you about the difference between a personal brand and a business brand. And for a lot of the people who you deal with, they are their business. So is there a difference?
Right. Okay. Yes and no. There's your answer. So here's how we look at it. So your business brand is just an extension of your personal brand. If you own the business, right?
Okay.
If you own the business, everybody has an individual personal brand, and they could be an employee at a corporation and they still have their own personal brand. And that personal brand helps them get hired or not hired, get fired or not fired, make the best decisions, be accepted into the right clubs, et cetera. But when you're the owner of your company is just an extension of your own personal brand. So we look at it like a hierarchy, right? You're at the top. First of all, the first question we ask is which came first, you or the business? You came first.
Yeah.
And the business came about as a result of your own journey and story. And so here's your story and your personal brand, which explains why you have this business or these businesses. And so if it's not in alignment, though, you've got trouble, because you're spending time, money, and effort on something, and especially a lot of time and effort on something that may not be feeding back to bringing you ideal customers for the purposes of being profitable. So I'll give you for instance. Okay. We work with a lot of coaches and experts who have a lot going on. They are authors, they're podcasters, they're speakers most often. Every time they're coaches or experts, right? Yep. And so they have all these different projects going on, and all they do is spend all this busy time working toward those projects, making sure the podcast is followed through and the videos are edited and the podcast hosts get their thank you, and making sure they've got this perfect presentation to hit a stage and doing all this outreach to be on a stage. But when are they making money with it, right? And you can go into so many different directions there that all of a sudden you turn around and you've lost sight of your point of differentiation. You've lost sight of your focus, and you're doing 2 podcasts on the side that don't have anything to do with bringing you customers. And so it's easy to lose sight of all of that. But when we look at it, we help people really streamline that and say, yeah, you can do those 3 things, but we need to put them under this umbrella together and figure out how they feed each other to make you profitable. And so that's really one of the biggest things that we do for people once their brand is dialed in, is that profitability alignment. And we see that so often, it's not even funny.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. Being one of those people you were just talking about.
Most people that we talk to are. So you are in a good club.
Yeah, and we have been too. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But the realization of that was also the transformation.
Right. Right. Exactly. And so this is the kind of thing that anybody can start or fine tune really at any time, right? So people who are listening don't need to think to themselves, whoa, missed that for the first 20 years of my business. Done.
No, not at all.
Never too late to start.
Never too late.
I'm living proof of it. Just, but coming to that understanding and then moving in that direction. And it makes a big difference nearly immediately. And that's the thing about it too. It's another in the definition phase of branding in the world that we live in. That some people say, oh, it takes time to build a brand. Oh, it takes years to build brands. It takes lots of money to build brands and stuff. And that's not true. Your brands are built by impressions. Every handshake, every email, every time somebody lands on your social media, every time somebody goes to your website, every time you lead them to those places, then those are impressions that are building a brand, and that you're one customer away from profitability at all times.
Yep. One touch away at any time. That's so true. And time is just not the success factor when it comes to a brand, because if we build a brand for you today and it just sits on a shelf somewhere 2 years from now, guess where you're going to be? So time didn't help you at all.
Right.
It's exposures and impressions that help you, is every time you get that brand out there. And I do want to say this. We've had some people like just on calls with us who just like their shoulders are sink, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, this is starting over." And it's like, no, this is the great part. It's not starting over at all. You have amazing framework. You've built this beautiful foundation behind your life-changing message and your journey and the business that you want to build. All of that is sitting there perfect for branding. All we're trying to do is come in and reorganize some things and say, okay, this is now presenting it, putting it in a package, putting a bow on it so you can express it easier in a more compelling way to the right people. That's all it's about. Mm-hmm. It's not starting over. It's just shining things up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you just said that, because absolutely, I think people can be hearing that and
oh yeah,
themselves, and they need to hear that message, because you're absolutely right. The foundation is there.
Yes.
The foundation has been there. And that's the one thing you have to have, is the commitment and passion for what you're doing. We don't work with anybody who does not have that. If you have passion for and commitment to something that you have built, and it's based on you helping somebody else with your life-changing message, we're all in. It doesn't matter where you start, how long you've been doing it. We can take a look at it and say, oh, wow, here's a fresh new spin on this. Everything you've got is perfect. Let's just shuffle a couple of things, put a new title on it, put a new shine on it, and off you go. And it's really simple.
Well, it's simple for you. So
it's a lot harder for us than it is for the client. But you're right. You're right about that. It doesn't feel simple to you at all.
Right.
Right. It just doesn't, because you're thinking, oh, this is going to be undone. But it really is simple on the client's end of things. We like to say, you can picture that swan just beautifully gliding across the water, and the client's the swan, and we're the ones paddling like hell underneath the water to get you to your destination, right? So it's that we're working on those 77 things. You don't even have to know 7 of them, right?
Right. Thank goodness.
That's what makes it so easy.
Well, and I think it's got to be so empowering as well. I keep thinking about all of this in this like continuum, that once you identify all of those things and you're at that place and you realize, wow, this really is who I am and what I offer and the value that I bring, then earning what you're worth becomes easier because you believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We need to tell Kathy's story here real quick.
Who do?
Okay. So this is a prime example of what just happened. So we held a mastermind 12 weeks ago. It just ended last week. And there's a lady in there named Kathy, and she is actually a performer. She is a poet and a storyteller. And she is an acclaimed poet. Couple of times, International Female Poet of the Year, Poetry Album of the Year. She's been recognized People's Choice Awards for several poetry organizations. She's absolutely incredible.
She really is.
The Maya Angelou of cowboy poetry.
Yeah, and I got and the only one to win both in Canada and the United States is Female Poet of the Year.
Yes,
same year.
Wow.
Okay, so Kathy comes into our mastermind because she'll tell you, we have an interview coming up with her in just a few days. She'll tell you, look, I wasn't charging enough. I didn't know how to present myself. I just knew that I was in at these events and on stages where they would pay musicians more than they would pay the poet or the storyteller. Mm-hmm. And as you and I being like, attendees of events like that, we can understand that. It's like, okay, I could see how that would normally happen. Yeah. But once we took her through the journey and positioned her as the winner that she is, the star that she is, and really brought all those things to light to life that you could tell when you met her and when you got to see her perform, but nobody knew that existed unless you were right in front of her, right? And that's what when we say a brand's number one job is to precede you, that's what we mean. So as soon as we presented her differently, it was only about 2.5, 3 weeks into the program, a 12-week program. And we worked with her on positioning herself right off the bat and pitching to an event coordinator. She was able to secure an amount to appear for her performance that was 300% more money than she had ever made before in her almost 30 years of doing this.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
it continues to happen. Each time she's asking for more, she's able to get it because we've positioned her differently. And the most important thing, and you'll hear this in her interview if anybody tunes into it later, is that her confidence level is now through the roof. Like she's very emotional about this because she's number one most genuine person in the world. She's incredible.
Absolutely.
But she's so appreciative, so grateful that now she can express herself in a way that she has always felt on the inside, but never knew how to show it on the outside.
And she clearly had the goods. Like
no doubt, she's very
unbelievably
accomplished,
talented, and she just needed it packaged right, and then needed to believe it, and it made all the difference in the world to her. And that's that we love those kind of success stories because we see that happen all the time.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so great. Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me and sharing this information. I loved it. I took a bunch of notes, which means I'm pretty sure the listeners did too. But will you let them know how they can find you, books, podcast, everything?
Absolutely. Just go to brandfacestar.com and you'll see how to connect with us. There's actually some free training, a download, a training guide that you can get there. There's also a place where you can schedule a chat with us and talk about your brand and see, what it might need and how we could be of service to you. And you can also find our podcast on the website too. So that's brandfacestar.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, one thing I have to say, and I don't typically say this, but I have to say this now, is that you guys are like the billboard for what you do, which I admire a great deal. So
thank you. That's very kind.
Well, it matters, right? Because this is what
we appreciate it.
Yeah. So oh my gosh.
Thank you for having us, Diane.
Oh, sure.
It's
Absolutely.
been a treat.
Yeah. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. You are who we're doing this for. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, a production of Evergreen Podcasts. Discover more episodes of this podcast and explore others at evergreenpodcast.com. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And if you're looking to get your sales strategy headed in the right direction, pick up a copy of Succeed Without Selling on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
The Jim Stroud Podcast explores the discoveries and trends forming the future of our lives. Brain-to-brain communication, robot bosses, microchip implants for workers, and artificial intelligence replacing human workers are all happening now. If you want to know what's happening next, subscribe now to the Jim Stroud Podcast.